Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Tonight. I'm your host Heather Bravo, and I am sitting here with Melissa Jamison. We just got through watching a comedy special with Phil Medina and the Smash Brothers, Corey and Chad. And Melissa here is a sign language interpreter, and she was on stage with them during the whole show, and so lovely. And she has got a great story, and she's does stuff with the sheriff's department, so we wanted to take a few minutes of her time and just talk to her, kind of get to know her, put a spotlight on her, and see what she's up to.
Right.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So we saw you up there today.
Yeah.
How did you get started doing sign language?
So it's actually my first language. Both my parents were deaf.
Oh, okay.
And so I had to go to speech therapy to learn how to speak properly.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a blessing of a language. And getting into interpreting was pretty much my first job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And what made you want to take it on the road with the comedians, with the Smash Brothers?
It was by chance, actually. I'm not huge for having the spotlight on me, except for when I interpret. I don't mind it because I don't really realize what's going on.
Right.
And what had happened was, before I started with them about 8 years ago, 6 months prior to that, I had another interpreter that wanted to bring some deaf people to their show, and they were more than willing to have some interpreters come up. They did that show. There was a different set of interpreters. 6 months later, they wanted to do it again, and the interpreters backed out at the last minute, and I happened to be there, and I showed an interest. Like, I would do it. That sounds like fun.
Right.
And so I went ahead and did the show by myself for Corey and Chad, and by the end of the show, Corey and Chad just looked at me and said, whenever you want on stage, you are more than welcomed. And that started our 8 years. So, yeah.
And so you travel with them and go on tour with them?
I go on tour a little bit here and there with them when I can, because obviously I do have another job. But I do go to Vegas with them. I obviously come out to Brea Improv, Irvine Improv, Ontario Improv. I'm there every month for their residency.
Right.
Their dirty show in Ontario Improv. And the Ontario Improv has been a blessing because they've actually opened it up where we bring in deaf people and we bring in students that want to be interpreters. So that way they can observe us and learn how to do comedy interpreting, which is different than school interpreting or professional interpreting.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how it started.
That is fantastic.
And one of the cool things about Melissa interpreting is she's not just an interpreter, but she is part of the show.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I noticed, that, like, you know, the whole, you know, all of that, like, I mean, it was great. And then how, you know, they can put you on blast and everybody just laughs, and it's like you guys are a family up there, and it's so fun and so entertaining. And then you, even while you're interpreting, like, you've just got this Colgate smile going on, like you're having so much fun.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I love seeing, no matter who's performing, if it's a musician, if it's a comic, whoever it is, I look for that spark and that happiness and that real joy in what they're doing. And you guys totally deliver that tonight, especially you. You can totally tell. Like, we really enjoyed it.
It was even more funnier is the fact that the Smash Brothers, Corey and Chad, are very, they improvise right on the spot. And just the fact that you can even see you try to sign and you're like, they catch you off guard.
They do. Like the Crown Royale bag, that has never been said before. And so, you know, as I'm trying to sign it, I'm like, wait, what did he just say? Because, you know, I have to interpret what I'm hearing pretty quickly, because with sign language and comedy, you don't want the people that are coming that use ASL to be so delayed.
Yes.
Because they're laughing at different times and they're not keeping up with the rest of the audience. And so I have to keep right behind them.
Right.
And so that means my processing is constantly going. And sometimes I get that sign out and then I go, wait, what did I just sign? and of course, you know, I'll start laughing and stuff. I take comedy interpreting a little bit different than a lot of interpreters that you might see on TV, where they're like, I'm not going to address them. I'm not going to address them.
Right.
And, you know, being an interpreter, I'm also a performer as well, because me blocking them out and not addressing them actually causes the audience to all of a sudden lose their entertainment at that moment,
Right.
and now they're having to work so much more to bring those audience back to where they were.
Right.
So if the comedian wants me to interact, I'll interact. If they want me, and you can kind of tell if they're a little bit more, I've never worked with an interpreter, I'll be a little bit more, I'll stay in one spot a little bit more
reserved.
because they don't know, or because that's their preference. They don't want me kind of as open as Corey and Chad. But for Corey and Chad, they're like, take the whole stage, you're fine.
Right, no, you should too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very, they do take, they get me off guard. Of course, they take each other off guard too. And so those are the fun things. Like, you never really know what's going to come out of their mouth. Even though it might be kind of the same story, because a lot of the comedians will stick with the same.
Right. If it gets a laugh, they keep it going.
If it gets a laugh, you keep it going for a while. You change it up, and they're constantly all of a sudden throwing those those curveballs, and we both kind of look at each other like, wait, what? I usually go, what did I do this time?
Yeah, I mean, their stories are just great, and I love how they always refer to you, and it's like, you're part of their act, and you're part of their family. They include you in that, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I was telling Phil earlier that I just love how, like, they always bring in, like, the Latinas and how crazy we are and all of it. And I was like, they're not lying. That's all true. Like, I'm Latina, and I know. I know. I'm not even trying to lie.
Yeah, there's no exaggeration.
No, it's great. It's great. I was like, wow, the honesty just pouring out is just fantastic.
Yes. No discrimination either.
Right?
They're wonderful.
Yeah, they're
Absolutely
great.
wonderful.
They're great. So you also work with the Sheriff's Department.
I do, yeah.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I work for the LA County Sheriff's Department. My title is actually law enforcement technician. And primarily people that are in that position, they do 911 dispatch, call taking at the station levels. They'll process evidence, properties, and so forth, and some admin positions. When COVID hit, the sheriff was looking for an interpreter. So due to our ADA laws, any state of emergency, you have to provide an interpreter. And so they found me within the department, and I came out, started interpreting, and it led me to transfer out of a station into our Sheriff's Information Bureau, which we deal with media, we do media interviews, and then we also do like all the social media posts, and we do monitoring of stuff as well. And so in that position, I this is the first time anyone's held the position I have, which basically is I'm the Sheriff's Sign Language Interpreter. I provide accessibility to all of our press conferences, including homicide, to be able to help the community, the deaf community around, know what's going on in their area. And then I also go to all the town halls, whether there's a request or not, because we live stream.
Yes.
And because we live stream, we don't know who's watching or who wants to watch. And so the Sheriff's Department, and in particular the sheriff, is big on accessibility. And so that's sort of been my position, and then what I do within that is I even closed caption our YouTube videos to make sure that's accessible.
Wow.
So I look at how can the Sheriff's Department improve on accessibility and our interactions with the community members. So then I come up with a whole bunch of stuff. I also do the LGBTQ committee for the Sheriff's Department.
Nice.
And so we try to get out there in the community and also do education.
Fantastic. Like that is so incredible. So basically they created this position for you.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That's amazing.
I mean, and luckily, like I said, blessing of the sheriff,
Yeah.
It's never been done before, and most police departments don't have anything similar to this. They only use an interpreter when it's in a state of emergency, and that's it.
Wow. Yeah, I can understand on that level. I was talking to you earlier about my friend who we started, big shout out up there to Annalise Garcia. When she passed away, she was in Kern County, and they did not have a Spanish interpreter to contact her mother. I had to go in the middle of the night and go talk to her mom. And I was like, wait a minute, how can you not have anybody to speak Spanish to go and they wanted to wait 2 days till the person came on duty. Oh, well, they speak Spanish. And I was like, wait, you're going to wait 2 days. They went to her roommate's house where she was living at and notified him, and it was like midnight. And then he called me right away. And he didn't know her mom very well, so he was like, I don't know what to do. They're going to wait 2 days. And I was like, no, 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 no. So I went to mom's house. So when you say that they really didn't have anybody, like my daughter was going to school for sign language interpretation, and like she was going to Antelope Valley College.
Okay.
And they had well, Bex isn't there anymore, rip. But Bex used to have a night where it was all
ASL night.
ASL night.
Yeah.
And you walked in there and you couldn't speak.
Yep.
At all. You had to sign.
Yeah.
And she just fell in love with the community. It was just so beautiful and just so eye-opening for her. So when you said that you're doing this for the sheriff's department, like, I fell in love instantly. Like, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that have these talents and these qualities that other people need so bad, and nobody's doing anything about it. And so
it was the reason why I joined the sheriff's department. So growing up, my parents were deaf.
Right.
They called 911 every once in a while.
Yeah.
For domestic violence. And back then, it'll take 2 to 3 days to get an interpreter. Do you want us to make an appointment? It's domestic violence.
Yeah.
And, of course it's like, no, I can't wait 2 to 3 days because something could happen.
Right.
And, as a child, I saw this disservice and this disconnect between law enforcement and the community. We even had one of our friends that passed away in a car accident. She was deaf. Her husband was deaf. And when they went to go make the notification, they didn't read the sign that says, please ring doorbell, I'm deaf. They knocked on the door. The husband was home the entire day. He found out about his wife because of a sticky note they left on the door that said, please call this number about this file number. And through the phone on a TTY back in those days,
yes, I remember
through an
this.
interpreter, he found out his wife passed away hours earlier.
Oh my God.
And so me seeing that as a child, middle school or so, I was like, no, I want to become a cop. I want to go into law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Because for me, I knew I could have bigger impact being inside than being the ones on the outside complaining.
Right.
Right, because I don't understand law enforcement as an outsider.
Right.
I understand law enforcement as an insider. And they trust me because I also understand why they do things.
Right.
And then let's come up with this compromise or this agreement.
Right.
And so me being able to get into the sheriff's department in LA and being able to educate now about the deaf community and share some of the things that happen or things that I've seen and I've witnessed. And now I teach deaf interactions for dispatchers, and then I have every year the sheriff's department will host a deaf awareness event.
Oh, wow.
Where we bring in deaf organizations, deaf residents. We bring in the sheriff's department, CHP, because we want to engage and we want to exchange the education and the knowledge of each other's community. Because law enforcement is also a community.
Right.
And we want them to become comfortable with each other. And so that's a way that we were able to do that every single year. And then throughout the year, I work with college students as a mentor. And we bring them out into the sheriff's department. They come watch press conferences and how to set them up and how to be an interpreter for a press conference and how to do town halls. Because eventually, I tell them, I want to retire one day.
Right.
You're my future.
Right.
So I need to help you become my replacement.
Right.
And it's been amazing being in the position I am, where I'm at, because we're such a large department that it's amazing of what we can do.
I bet. That is so beautiful. So I was 14 years old and I went to Magic Mountain with a group of my friends and we met up. There was a deaf school that was there, and we met some of the most brightest, most beautiful people in the world, and I got the pleasure of being a pen pal for like half of them for about 6 years. And then every once in a while we would call each other and we would use the TTY.
That's the past device.
And
now it's the video phone.
Yes. So, well, they were talking about the video phone. That was something in the future to come, and we were like, wow, that would be amazing, But so I kind of grew up not in the middle, but aware.
Yeah.
Definitely
Exposed.
aware. Yes, and
sure,
exposed of it. And then when my daughter came home and she's like, I want to do this, I was like, yes, let's do this, and that was something that me and her actually talked about. Like, I was like, oh, I should go to school too, I mean, I'm going to be doing all of this, so
I tell people you never know when you're going to be deaf. You can get in a
Exactly.
car crash and bust your eardrum, and all
Yes.
of a sudden you don't have a language to communicate.
Yes.
You can speak, but you can't hear. And
Right.
so sign language is one of those languages. Is one, it's an amazing language. It's so much fun. It's so expressive. But two, you're going to use it maybe sometime in your life.
Yes.
I mean, we all lose hearing at some
Yes.
point of our life.
I'm actually partially deaf in this ear
Yeah.
from ear infections
Yeah,
when I was
yeah,
a little
yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And just the learning of ASL allows you to also gesture. So
Yeah.
when I talk to other people that use different sign languages from different countries,
Right.
we're still able to communicate because of that understanding of facial expression and
Yes.
tone and gesturing.
Yes.
And I always encourage people, take sign language.
Yes.
It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and the culture is just so inviting.
Yes, yes. I totally fell in love. I
Yeah.
totally fell in love. And the facial expressions, that, like, I'm a very expressive person as it is. And my daughter always tell me, Mom, you would do great because it's all on your face, always,
is.
And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
language. And I really, really love what you're doing.
Thank you.
And big, big shout outs to you because that is just amazing. And I would love to be able to follow up with you later,
Yeah.
see what you're doing,
Absolutely.
see how everything's going,
Yeah.
update us, and yeah, thank you so
absolutely.
much.
And your daughter,
We
I
appreciate-
mean,
yes, I'm gonna.
I do
drag her
other
in.
stuff. I do music and festivals, and I do conferences,
Wow.
so Comic-Con, DragCon,
Yes.
all these fun things. So,
Oh,
yeah,
nice. Fantastic.
If she needs any help, just
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say to anybody who is looking into maybe being a sign language interpreter or maybe joining the sheriff's department or anything like that? Any advice or anything that you want to say, something that's important that they should try to do, look out for, or...
how long do we have? No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
no, go ahead.
No, when it comes to being a sign language interpreter, because obviously this is something I'm passionate about.
Yes.
I tell people we're welcomed into this culture and this community, and to always be humble. No matter how well you interpret, no matter how fluent you are, no matter how long you've been doing it, you have to stay humble because it's not our language, it's not our culture.
Right.
We've been welcomed in.
Yes.
And we always have to give honorage to the people that live in that culture, in that community, and put your egos off to the side.
Yes.
And be so open-minded, because one way isn't the right way in American Sign Language. It's such a wonderful, expensive language that your way isn't always right.
Mm-hmm.
And having that ability to be open-minded and having that humbleness is what makes you the better interpreter. And it makes you better for the clients that you're serving, and it makes you a better representation of what an ASL interpreter should be. And so that's my hugest thing when I tell people this is what you need to do, and I'm constantly reminding myself as well.
Stay humble.
Stay humble. I mean, you have to. It's not my language. It's not my culture. And even though it's my parents, and I am part of both worlds, the hearing world and the deaf community, it's still my parents'
Right.
culture and their community and their upbringing that they were blessed enough to give to me.
Right. How beautiful is
And
that?
yeah, so I mean, it's sometimes we'll see people go a little bit too much and say, "Oh, I'm the best interpreter," and it's like, no, humble yourself.
Yeah.
Humble yourself.
You're up here. And you
Bring it down here
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit. And for people that are joining the sheriff's department, the biggest thing is remembering that we're not in it for us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in it to put on a uniform or to say, oh, we work with the sheriff's department and kind of, again, be egotistical.
Right.
We're here to serve the public. We're public servants, and we do this because it is a calling.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be able to help when everybody else wants to run.
Right.
We want to be able to be that first call or that voice that you hear when you're in stress and in a crisis. And so being open-minded of other people's cultures, everybody's orientations, and just being understanding that they're not like you, but they're still human beings.
Right.
And that we're here for a purpose, which is just to protect. And we do what we have to do, and unfortunately sometimes it is tragic.
Yeah.
But we have to always remember why we started in the first place. No matter how many years down the line, no matter how much crises we see, because we do go through PTSD as well.
Oh, yes, I'm
And
sure.
we go through a lot of the stuff military people go through.
Yes.
And it's not really concentrated on for public safety, and that includes firefighters, ambulance drivers. We see the worst of people, and we go to the worst.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard for us to reel that back and say, no, there's still good people out there.
Right.
And so it's to always have to remember that no matter how many bad things we see, there are so many good people out there that are needing to be protected.
Right.
And that's why we're here.
Right.
So that's my biggest, I guess, food for thoughts for both categories.
Right.
And then if we bring in the LGBTQ, it's at no point are we saying you have to believe us, you have to understand us, you have to take us in the way we are. We're asking, especially for law enforcement, all humans are humans, regardless of religion, race, nationality, and we swear, and we, on oath that we would protect all human beings, 14th Amendment, that somebody's orientation doesn't matter.
Right.
Does not matter.
And it shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
I always tell everybody, I don't care if the person is purple and from Mars, as
Exactly.
long as they're good to you and you're happy and you
Yes.
can love and be loved and feel
Yes.
that love, it doesn't matter to me
Yeah.
at all. And I wish that so many other people thought like that. I have friends that are part of the community, and like their families don't even back them up. Their parents are down on them and kick them out of the house or whatever.
I had that happen.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can't ever imagine punishing someone for loving
Yeah.
or being loved.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yeah.
to me, it's just wrong.
Yeah. But us as a world, we all have to say, to each their own. We
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Welcome to the United States.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be freedom, and you got a freedom of choice. You have a freedom of religion. You have a freedom of which school you go to, where you live. So, the mentality of like, oh, well, this person's this, well, to each their own. If
Yeah.
that's what makes them happy, if that's what makes them satisfied and fulfilled, good.
Right. What business is it of ours?
It's not
Do
hurting
it.
me.
Do it. Exactly.
Good.
Yes.
Do what makes you happy, because we don't live very long on this earth.
Right.
Enjoy it.
Right.
And,
I agree 100%.
yeah, so it's,
We just need to clone her and just put her like all over the place. Yes. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, love and be loved. I don't care who
and
it is.
learn.
Yes.
Talk to other people about their cultures and their communities and their religions, and learn as much as you can, because that's how you become a little less biased.
Yes.
Right? Because the more knowledge you have and the more understanding you have, then you know where people are coming from.
Yes.
And you're not offensive to them as well.
Right.
Because now you can be respectful.
Right.
all
And
about being
that is
respect.
so important too, because we were actually in Texas a few months ago. Where you can't be a woman anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a really hard time with that. But we were there, and we were at a restaurant, and the waitress took everybody's order in English, and when she looked at me, she asked me in Spanish if she could take my order. And no, I'm fine with
fine
that.
with that, okay.
But, and the way I was raised and brought up and educated is that if someone talks to you in their native language,
Right.
and you know that language,
Right.
it is rude and disrespectful for you to answer them in a different language.
Yes.
So when she asked me, what I wanted to order, and I answered her in Spanish, and then she was really happy, yes, And then one of his family members made a comment to me. She was like, "Oh, you speak Spanish good," and I was just like, "Yeah, that's me,"
Yeah.
And but people don't understand how sensitive some cultures are when it comes to even just responding in a language, just because that person does speak English, but they refer to you in Spanish. And I feel that she was trying to show respect to me
Yeah.
and recognizing my culture.
Right.
And so that's why I was like very pleased and happy to respond to her in that way, you know, and show the respect back.
Because if you didn't speak Spanish, which a lot of, you know, people that are Latin don't speak Spanish, then you would have just said, oh, you know, I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
And then she would have reverted. But it was nice to know that she goes, no, we're like, we're the same.
Right.
And I'm going to talk to you in my native tongue.
Right. And I enjoyed that, and I appreciated that she showed that respect to me. So I just felt, boom, I'm going to just show it right back to you, hon, you know. So yes, it's so important for people just to understand culture and how different everybody is, but yet we're all the same.
All the same.
Yeah.
We all got a heart, we all got veins, we all got a body, we all got a brain.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and we all got to, you know, we
some people don't use them like I wish they would.
I didn't say they were functioning. They have one.
Yes.
How much they function, that all depends. But, you know, we all do have the same body parts and the same hearts and the brains, that just because our skin color is different or where we're from is different or what country we're from. For me, it's fascinating because I was like, teach me, you know, learn me, because I want to be respectful and I want to know about these cultures and these holidays that I don't know about because I don't celebrate them, you know. And so for me, it's always an exciting thing of like, sit down. How much time do you have?
Right. Always learning and growing.
Always learning and growing, and that's how you become just a better person, and in general. And that's really what we all need. Sit down at a table and have a conversation with somebody. Don't judge.
Right. Judgment's out the window. I am not a judger.
No.
I don't believe in that. I don't like it.
Don't judge a book by a cover.
No, never.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so fun. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. So can we follow you on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that?
I really don't post very much. I'm way too busy. I do it for work. So I'm like, I'm not doing it at home. But, you know, I actually, I did create a page that's specifically for the Dirty Show, and it's called Dirty Show Interpreters.
Oh, okay.
And I don't post anything on there because obviously during comedy shows you can't film, you can't, you know, do anything like that. But I do advertise on there when certain shows are going to have interpreters.
Okay.
And primarily the Dirty Show, since obviously that's where I got my start. Doing comedy. So I'll always promote Corey and Chad the Smash Brothers, and I'll always put in there like ASL provided. And so that way the deaf community as well as others that follow know that they can come out and it's accessible. Nice. Which is always nice. They always make sure it's accessible. They don't care if somebody is deaf or they don't have to notify ahead of time. You can show up to any of their shows and it's going to be accessible if it's here locally.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love it. We appreciate it very much.
And for SoCal residents, if you happen to be watching the news and you see an interpreter with a mohawk, there's a 90% chance.
Mohawk lesbian. You know, it's more likely going to be me. So yeah, you'll see me on TV every once in a while. I know Corey and Chad, you know, some of their people are like, I saw her. And they're like, yep, that's my lesbian.
It's so funny.
And then they see me here and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm their lesbian. Yeah,
I'm their lesbian. Whole different style of interpreting. But wonderful either way. I'm passionate about the language and passionate about accessibility. So
well, thank you so much for what you do. It's so encouraging and fascinating and eye-opening, and we just really appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on our show and talking to us.
Anytime.
And so I would love to be able to contact you later and see what you're up to and do an update, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining another episode of Real Talk Tonight, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Just drink a couple of 40s and discovered I'm the world's greatest lover and I'm indestructible.